down that camera and strap in. It's time for a new episode of TogChat Live. It's an open mic night for photographers. Get ready for 60 minutes of your photography questions in real time with answers from your host, Joe Edelman.
Hey gang, thanks for joining me for another live episode of TogChat. I'm Joe Edelman, your host, and our discussion tonight is all about the differences between Sony and Nikon cameras. What? You guys thought I was going to talk about watermarks? Come on. You don't really want to talk about watermarks. I don't think you want to talk about watermarks because I don't think most people really want to listen about watermarks. I think that you're all just hoping Joe's going to do a big rant and have a meltdown. Well, okay, so our discussion tonight, can we please stop watermarking our images? Hey, but on a serious note, before I start, I just wanted to take a quick moment and send my wishes, my best wishes to the people of Las Vegas, and specifically the folks that were at last night's concert and their families. I have quite a few followers and supporters that are from Las Vegas, and I'm happy to report they're all safe and doing well. But my thoughts go out to all those people that were directly impacted by last night's senseless tragedy. I cannot even begin to imagine. So please, all of you, stay tuned. I promise to do at least 30 minutes of live Q&A to answer your questions. And I have an opportunity tonight for all of you to win some cool gear from our friends at PhotoFlex, so stay tuned for that. And I have an awesome discount that is available to you from Hunt's Photo and Video, who's sponsoring our show tonight. So tonight, I'm going to discuss watermarks. So let's start with the question of why is watermarking even an issue, okay? So I will begin with an admission of guilt. I used to watermark my images. I did. I stopped watermarking my images years ago. Now, in my defense, when I did watermark a photograph, the way I would do it, I would add a border at the bottom of the image, like an extended border. And in the border, I would have my web address because that was my watermark. It wasn't my name. It was my website address, just the www part. I would have it in a really easy to read type, and it was in the bottom border, not over top of the image itself at all. Now, back then, it made sense because that's what most photographers were doing to prevent theft and to brand their name, which is what so many of you have been telling me on social media today is what you're doing. But here's the thing. I realize now it wasn't the right thing to do, period. So the knowledge that I am going to share with you tonight, it's a story of evolution backed by real science, the law, real marketing, and an eye towards the future and future technologies. So now we all know painters add their signatures right into their painting as an assurance that people will be able to identify them as the artist. But they do it in a way that you frequently need to hunt to be able to find that signature. Photographers, we really don't have a way to do that unless we watermark the pictures. You know, back when I began as a photographer in the 1970s, it was common practice to own a rubber stamp with your name and your contact information that you would apply to the back of the print or mat board or frame. Now that rubber plant stamp worked great until the mid-1980s when resin-coated paper made it pretty much impossible to rubber stamp a print because the ink would smear, or you could just wipe it off a little bit later with some water. Also in the late 1980s, school photographers like studio chains and Olin Mills especially started exposing a watermark right over the proof prints so that way when they gave the prints to their clients, they couldn't go out and copy them and have them copied at a camera store. Now this practice escalated into the mid-1990s when the internet became a household feature. Then as digital photography took hold and social media was born, people started posting pictures online, and this became the new way of sharing pictures. You know, it also made it extremely easy to copy or steal an image. So indeed, beginning in the early 2000s, adding a watermark became the way to ensure that some other guy or girl with a camera couldn't copy your photograph and claim it as their own. It also guaranteed that a tightwad client couldn't just go ahead and make prints from the proofs that you posted online instead of actually paying you. And it ensured that a magazine or an advertiser couldn't profit from your efforts without paying you first. So, back then, this practice of watermarking, it made sense. In fact, it was considered the smart thing to do, mainly because it was the modern digital equivalent of trying to survive in the wild, wild west. Literally. The rules were barely there on the internet. The internet was a new world, and people were inhabiting and staking their claims to their space and trying to make a name for themselves. It literally was anything goes. And indeed, like the wild, wild west, there were few laws to protect photographers and even fewer methods to try and enforce those laws. But that was at least 15 years ago. Since then, a lot has changed. The internet has matured more. New rules have been adopted by the web hosting companies as well as the social media platforms. The Digital Millennium Copyright Act was actually signed into law in 1998. It's referred to as the DMCA. It's an amendment to Title 17 of the United States Code that outlines copyright law. Initially, web hosting companies and even the social media platforms, when they first started, struggled big time to be able to manage DMCA issues. But they have all universally become much better at it and made it easier for content creators like you or me to protect their work. So that brings us to today. As I found out on my social media this morning and this afternoon, the people at Watermark will defend their rights to watermark until the end. Oh yeah, there was some pretty heated debate on my social media feeds today. It seems like people are either totally for it or totally against it. So I decided that I would share my evolution with you tonight and offer you some resources to help you with your own. So, as many of you know, I've talked about it before, I am married to an incredible woman who is a cognitive psychologist, meaning she researches how our brains work, and most importantly, how we perceive and understand information. Years ago, when this watermark debate was just getting started, I turned to her and I asked her what science knew about this issue. I never liked the idea of using a watermark, but the reason seemed very clear and very necessary, so I did. Well, my wife showed me a few pieces of recent research that were step one in my ending the use of watermarks on my photos. The first one came from the University of Illinois, where researchers using eye tracking equipment learned that any text on a photo will draw the majority of the viewer's attention. Think about it. Turns out advertisers had this figured out decades ago. University of Toronto researchers discovered that when you first look at an image, if your attention is divided, such as between the content of the photo and the watermark, it will decrease your recall of that image after the fact. In other words, making your photo easily forgettable. Researchers at the University of Israel determined that small details like a watermark are only remembered if they fit the context of the photo. In other words, if you have a photo of a beautiful woman, don't expect people to remember what your watermark said or that it was even there. Same goes for a beautiful sunset or landscape. These researchers also found that people will generally only recall the overall gist of a photograph, not the specifics. So what does the science tell us about watermarking? Well, it doesn't deal with the theft issue. I'll get back to that in a minute. But it does tell us that a watermark is simply a distraction that makes it harder for people to enjoy your work. And a watermark that is too big or even too small and hard to read, it's an even bigger distraction. And it's one that people will not likely remember the details of. In other words, it's not building your brand, it's impeding your brand. Gang, you can't argue with the science. Now, what about the legal side of things? We could spend a couple of hours on this, so I'm just going to touch on a few important elements to help you understand. But please, gang, whatever you do, if you have legitimate legal concerns, don't take your advice from YouTube. I am simply sharing with you what I have learned and what I do with that information. So, the short story of copyright is that Title 17 of the United States Code provides that the moment you create something, i.e. press the shutter button, you own the copyright to that image. You are not required to pay the fee and file your image with the Library of Congress in order to be able to enforce your copyright. You are also not required to put a copyright notice on your image in order to be able to enforce your copyright. The law states that you simply need proof. With digital files, that's extremely easy to do since the original files have EXIF data and your hard drive has date and timestamps that indicate when the file was created. In fact, interesting tidbit, Title 17, Chapter 3 provides that you own that copyright for life and it remains in your name for 70 years after your death, even if you don't file with the Library of Congress. So what is the benefit? The benefit to registering a copyright, if you feel the need, is that you can go to court and recover damages. It is extremely hard to sue for damages of any kind that you have not actually filed a copyright for. So, indeed, if you're a litigious person, filing a copyright is actually very easy to do, but it does cost money. You can do it electronically, register a single photograph for $35 and multiples for $55. There are even companies like Binded.com, Binded.com, that has simplified and automated the online process. I've got links to them below the video. Now, full disclosure, I have never personally registered a copyright of one of my photographs. I have never had a need or the fear, and definitely not the desire, to be litigious. So here's how I look at all this theft stuff. My experience has found that the people who whine the most about people stealing their photos and posting them as their own, these are people who spend way too much time on Facebook, interacting with a bunch of backwoods amateurs. These are people that tend to be jealous. These are people that, because of their jealousy, are lacking confidence. In my career, I've had photographs stolen, and I've had them reposted on social media. I've had my YouTube videos copied from my channel and posted to websites in Russia and China. In both cases, these were websites for retail photography stores in those countries that were making money by posting my videos. And for every person that watched those videos on their websites, I lost advertising revenue on YouTube. It was pennies, but I still lost it. And in every case where I have had something stolen or repurposed, I have written via email, politely but firmly, to the offender, made them aware that I know what they've done, offered proof that it was mine, just in case they may have actually taken it from somebody else and they weren't the original offender. And I made it clear in the email that I was not authorizing them to use it and that I was requesting that they remove it immediately. I explained that failure to do so would result in me filing a DMCA complaint with their web hosting company or social media platform. I have dealt with this more than 40 times in the last 5 years, and I'm willing to bet that is a hell of a lot more than most of you have. Every single time, I have been successful at having the item removed without filing a copyright, without posting a watermark, without being litigious, because I am not litigious. I see no value in that. These people weren't being malicious. They were being lazy and inconsiderate and often ignorant of the law. They didn't do it to harm me. Nothing that was worth taking legal action over, and nothing they did had a serious negative impact on my business. Let's be real, gang. Some bozo on Facebook takes your photo and posts it on his page. He doesn't have the skills to back it up, so what's it ultimately going to do for him? Nothing. So how much has it actually hurt you? It hasn't. True story. You can't make this stuff up. It's on my personal Facebook page. I actually had a guy argue with me on Facebook today because his reason for watermarks is that after he spends 60 hours retouching a milk dress image, you know, those pictures where they pose the model and they throw milk at her and then they composite together enough of them to make it look like a really cool dress made out of splashing milk. He wants to be sure that nobody can steal that. Really? Instead of spending 60 hours copying somebody else's really cool idea and not improving on it or bettering it, Why not take that 60 hours and improve your photography and create your own something unique so that people know your work without seeing a stupid logo on it? This guy wants to protect something that isn't really his in the first place. That makes a whole lot of sense. I had somebody else tell me that they watermark their images for SEO purposes. Huh? Google does not read your watermarks, gang. And a watermark definitely does not improve your SEO. Period. I had another photographer explain, I've been watermarking for years and people don't steal my work, so why would I change that now? There you have the if it ain't broke, don't fix it plan. Let's see, how well did that plan work out for companies like Sears and Roebuck or Kmart, or how about Radio Shack? Heck, newspapers have had stellar results with that attitude. The world evolves. Don't be a dinosaur. You know, on top of all of this, you have companies like Google that are perfecting technology that will remove watermarks from your images. And you can already purchase an iPhone app to do the same thing. And there are websites that allow you to upload images and remove the watermarks for free. Google it. So why fight it? What do you really think you're accomplishing? You can't stop someone from stealing your work if it's on the internet. And if you watermark it, you are only ruining the experience of the person who views your photos. In other words, the people that you actually care about. So obviously, my first piece of advice for all of you is stop using watermarks completely. But before you do, don't take my word for it. I'm just some guy on YouTube. Listen to this list of photographers. Just off the top of my head, Gregory Heisler, Lindsley Adler, Joe McNally, Peter Hurley, Joel Grimes, Clay Cook, Frank Doroff, Sal Sincata. Go ahead, ignore that list, pick your most admired photographers. Go and look at their websites and tell me how many of them have watermarks on their images. Heck, even photographer turned social marketing guru Jasmine Star, she has no watermarks on her images, on her website. These are people who are at the top of their game with the most to lose from somebody stealing their work. These people have worked their butts off to achieve their skill set and portfolio status, yet you don't see them with their name plastered all over their photos, gang. Branding for a photographer is not about shoving your name in front of everyone instead of letting them view your work. Branding for a photographer is about doing the kind of work that makes people want to know who you are. When your work is quality work, just like those famous people, it is difficult for people to steal it and repost it. Why? Because other people will recognize it. So if you are insecure about protecting your work, it's probably because you're simply insecure about the quality of your work. So change that. Do better work. So now, a couple last things here. If I can't convince you, at least stop being stupid about it, okay? If you insist on that watermark, the current zombie trend of the signature watermarks, please don't use such a tight script font and then make it so small that you can't read it, because then it's just one of those distractions. And for those of you that are going to pay money to have the signature made, please stop being so lazy and stupid. Yes, there is a company that advertises all over Facebook, and for $39.99, they will create a signature logo for you. And they have a beautiful website that makes it look like such a great idea. But instead of spending $39.99, visit a website like Fiverr.com and get the exact same thing done for $5 to $10 maximum. I mean, come on, gang. If you're going to be a zombie-tographer, there is no reason to waste money that could allow you to maintain your status as a gear-tographer. Seriously, my advice, life doesn't happen on Facebook or Instagram. Put your energy and your efforts into mastering your craft. Remember, gang, that being successful as a photographer, it requires the ability to interact with people and maintain relationships, real relationships, not online Facebook relationships. Don't be like the guy who's whining because he copied somebody else's idea and he's worried that somebody might repost his photo. Focus on you, your work, your talents, and produce work that people will recognize as yours. Learn the rules so that you can protect yourself without paying fees to the government or making lawyers richer. And better yet, get back to enjoying photography instead of putting a virtual fence in front of your work and calling it a watermark that is going to protect you. And those, gang, are my Tog thoughts for the week. Thank you all for listening. So how's everybody doing tonight? I know I saw a ton of comments flying by there, and it was really, really quite hard to not get distracted. I saw somebody mention Jason Lanier. James Parrish, just for the record, go look at Jason Lanier's website, his personal photography website. 0 watermarks. I stand by my comments. So listen, hey, it is great to see you guys here. Jason's here. Irene's here. Hi, Irene. How you doing? Sven, James Parrish, James Brown's here. Anand is here. Troy's here. How are we doing, Troy? I didn't see you sneaking. Doug Campbell, Doug Thompson, all you guys, thank you so much for being here again, spending a Monday night with me. So let's get a couple real quick pieces of business out. Now's the time, gang. If you've got questions, get them typed in there. Start loading up. I will do my best to get them all answered. If you've got a question that you really need answered, it's super, super important. Make sure that you are using that super chat feature. You can find it down in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. Even if I have to stay late, I will take care of the super chats, okay? So the few business things that we have. First of all, new video this week. So this is part 3 in my LED lighting series. Please check it out. These are the Savage Edge-Lit Pro videos. I'm going to put the link in the chat window there for you so that you guys have it. Really, really awesome lights. I had a ton of fun playing with these. I'm not going to lie to you guys. This whole LED series, it's been a blast. It's been a blast because it's really forced me to rethink a lot of lighting concepts that I'm used to. I know Irene's here. I know Irene's a big fan of natural light. I mentioned it in the video. I swear by it. And if you look at my past work, you know, if I'm going outside, I would much rather shoot with natural light. I mean, yes, I'm primarily a studio photographer. I do tons of work inside with lights, but outside for me, it's a treat to be able to go ahead and work with natural light. And it's a fun challenge. I love it. But that being said, it's been a blast taking these LED lights, especially going outside with the Savage lights, and really trying to prove to people that you can do the same things with those lights as you can do with strobes. That being said, yes, some things are going to be different. That being said, you can't be as lazy and run and gun. You have to do a little bit of planning. You have to have a little bit of patience. That's such a horrible thing, right? So anyway, check that out. I encourage you. I will promise you this, because I know a few people commented and I thought, oh, you're getting paid. Number one, not a single company has ever paid me to talk about a piece of their gear. Did they send me the gear? Yes. Do I get to keep them? I do, gang. Yes. I make no qualms, no apologies for that. But if you watch the video, you're going to see two things. Number one, I'm very honest about what I think about the gear and what you can do with it. Number two, the video's not an advertisement for the gear. The video also is lighting lessons and shooting lessons. So I really put this stuff to the test. So will there be more stuff like this in the future? There will be some. Is this going to be all that I'm doing? No, of course not. Okay, I've got one more video left in the LED series, and then we're going to go off in kind of a very different tilt than I've been on before. And this fall, I've been promising you guys for a while. It's going to come up when we get into end of October. We're going to do a lot about shoot prep, model prep, working with your models, communicating with your models. I've seen a lot of videos come up recently by different photographers about communicating with your models and all that kind of stuff. And they're good, but I'm going to be completely honest with you. They are not detailed enough. Okay. There's a lot more to it. As far as I'm concerned, those videos, while they have good information, they kind of scratch the surface. I'm going to dig down into the nitty gritty, give you the full scoop. I promise. Okay. So that being said, next piece of business. Last week, I told you guys, let me switch my screen over here real quick. I told you guys about a weekly contest that the folks at PhotoFlex run. And I'm really pleased to say that one of my followers, one of the members of my Facebook group, won the contest again. And no, it's not rigged. And no, PhotoFlex had no way of knowing it was one of my followers. This is this set of photos that won last week from Andrew Clausen, who, by the way, he's from the Pacific Northwest. He is a teenager. So come on, gang. For those of you that aren't teenagers, what's your excuse? I've got kids doing amazing work here. Get your butts in gear. And when you're shooting, do a couple behind the scenes pictures and submit them. You win prizes. This week, PhotoFlex again is giving away a 22-inch 9-in-1 reflector disc set. So all you got to do is email. I'll put the link here. You can see it on the screen there. First, I'll put the link to their Facebook page. And by the way, people have asked this before. I'll mention it again. Hey, Andrew's here. So everybody, Andrew's here. So everybody congratulate Andrew, who won last week's contest. I want to see a whole bunch of congratulations going up in that chat window for Andrew. So here is the link to PhotoFlex's Facebook page. Next up, I will give you the email address that you are going to submit your photos to. Okay, there you go. So, Anand in New Zealand, you entered the contest and the teenager beat you. Oh, you have to up your game, Anand. Come on. All right. So, hey, listen, one more thing. And actually, I should have mentioned this a few moments ago when I was talking about those LED lights. I've got a new sponsor for TogChats. The sponsor is actually kind of important to me for a bunch of reasons. I'm going to be completely honest with you. The sponsor is Hunt's Photo and Video, who is a New England-based photo retailer. I mentioned them a couple weeks ago in TogChat when I was talking about B&H and Adorama. You can see the link to their website there, but also in the description of this video, right underneath the video, Hunt's has very, very graciously given us a 15% discount on the Savage LED edge lights. So for any of you that are interested in trying those out or want to make that switch, make sure you follow the link that's in the description below. That link will be active through the end of the year, meaning Christmas is coming, hint, hint, okay? So you might want to share that link with a loved one or someone that might be looking to buy you a gift, but it's 15% off the regular price of the Savage LED lights. You guys will be hearing a little bit more about Hunt's along the way. Gary Farber, who's the gentleman that owns Hunt's, has been a great supporter of the work that I'm doing. And as I mentioned in TogChat a few episodes back, he's a great supporter of the photo community in general, not just in New England, but literally throughout the country. The man, I don't know how the man finds time to sleep for the amount of things that he does and the stuff that he's involved in. But he has very graciously put me in touch with some of these companies that are basically giving me some stuff to test out and to play with. And also, better yet, giving me access to the really, really good inside information to be able to share with you guys. So lots more to come. Some really cool stuff coming from this relationship. I would encourage you guys, check out their website. They are every bit as good as a B&H and an Adorama and all those places. And especially if you live in New England and you haven't visited one of their stores, you absolutely need to visit one of their stores. Okay? All right. That's all the business stuff. I guess I should just really quick go through the, hey, how about like a thumbs up, okay? I get it. All of you diehard Watermark people have already hit the thumbs down. That's okay. But for the rest of you, maybe do the thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I'm 6,000 people away from that 100,000 mark, okay? Social media, of course, you can find me Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and comments are always appreciated. All right, so let's dig into questions. So I had one question that was a super chat way back. In fact, it came through before we actually started the show tonight, okay? So this question was from James Parrish, and he asked, when should you watermark? Some believe you should watermark in your gallery to keep clients from getting copies of the images before they pay. Thoughts? James, that's a perfectly good time to watermark. So here's the thing. Everything that I said tonight about watermarking, just to be clear, since maybe I was not clear, it is framed in the concept of displaying and marketing your work. When you are showing proofs to a client, that is a functional thing you're doing with your photographs. Now, do keep in mind, the more obnoxious the proof is that you put over your photos, based on the science, we know the more it's degrading the image in the other person's perception, and you are potentially hurting sales. So am I saying that when you're showing proofs, especially if you use a website like SmugMug or PixieSet or Zenfolio, am I suggesting that you should go ahead and not watermark your images? Absolutely not. But here's what I am suggesting. Make sure that the watermark is light enough that people can still understand the image very, very well. And in the case of proofs, I wouldn't just put like a simple signature watermark. I would do like Ola Mills used to do back in the day, and you'd have multiple, watermarks over the top of the image to make sure that people, are not going to be able to print it or post it without seeing that. But make it thin enough, make it light enough. Your goal is to make it so that people can't easily remove it, but at the same time so that they can see and appreciate the image to make them want to purchase it. I will be clear, which I've talked about in previous marketing talk chats and answered in previous questions, that ideally, if you're a portrait or wedding photographer, stop showing your proofs online. Get your people to sit down. The people in the business, gang, don't take my word for it, look around. The people in the business that are making big money shooting weddings and shooting portraits, they're not doing it with online proofing. They're doing it by sitting down and making a production out of it. They bring the people in and they have the people sit down. They, if it's a bride and groom coming back to have their proof reveal, they give them champagne and some little snacks, all that kind of stuff, okay? So for proofs, I'm not opposed to that. But here's the thing. Here's how you do it, James, without having to watermark. One of the big mistakes that I find people making today, and this is a huge mistake, and this isn't a watermarking issue, this is a photographer being lazy issue or misinformed, one of the two. Stop uploading full resolution files to the internet, period. And I've talked about this in many contexts in the past, so I'm not going to dig deep into that tonight, but if you upload a 72 dpi file that's sized at, let's say, 1200 pixels tall, which is more than enough. If you have to do online proofing, 1200 pixels tall is more than enough for people to be able to get a good view of that image online. That's not going to print out to any more than about a 4x6, maybe a 5x7. So people aren't going to be able to take that and go ahead and print like 16x20s and print wall art on it, which is where you're really making your money. So I find that the biggest problem with people feeling the overwhelming need to watermark their proofs is because they're really kind of doing business the lazy way to begin with. And as a result of that, they're looking for ways to cut corners. And one of the easiest ways to do it is just slap a logo all over that picture and make it hard for people to see the picture. So it's not the ideal solution in that sense. Okay? All right. So let's go back here and see if we can get some questions now. Let's see here. Eric Bigizzi, any chance of a spec details and DIY video on your wall platform bed? As a matter of fact, there is. Let me see if we can actually find that. Whoops. Sorry, let me back out of here real quick. Let me do the search, and I'll see if I can find it for you. If I can, I will give you that link right away. Yep, there it is. So it is one of the old talk chats, Eric, and it just so happens here is the link that you want. Okay, there you go. So if you watch that talk chat, you'll see that there is kind of a video within the video where I walked through the build process and everything that was involved in creating that. So go ahead and check that out. Okay. All right. So let's see. Anon, Hunt's is local to you. That's awesome. Next time you go, ask for Gary. Tell him Joe sent you. Okay. Let's see. Nate, man, you took a different path on the whole watermark issue. I started hiring the face of rapper Gucci. Well, Nate, I guess you could do the whole, where's Waldo thing, but honestly, that's just a whole lot of work. So, Paul, I'm looking for a gray backdrop, but what kind of gray? Do you have, those colors have some numbers so I can ask at the store? Yeah. So you know what, Paul, here, let's do this. Let me go ahead and, I'll bring up Savage's website. Bear with me one second here. Okay, so Savage Universal. If you go to Savage's website, up at the top, click on link. Whoops, sorry. Shop, and then Seamless Paper. Okay. And I would encourage all of you to download one of these, by the way. You want to scroll down all the way to the bottom of this page. I mean, you can see all the different colors, and there's the numbers, and I'll come back to your question. But for all the rest of you, scroll down all the way to the bottom. Way down, because there's a bunch of them. Go ahead and grab this Seamless Paper chart, okay? You don't have to buy it. You can download the file and essentially have it in a PDF format, okay? That's what you want to do. This should be something that every one of you has stored on your phones or your computers, just so you have it as a reference. So going back though to your question, Paul, about which colors, my favorite of the grays, let me just find it here because I'm not going to lie, I don't remember which number it is. It's the Thunder Gray, which is a little bit of a darker gray. There's charcoal black. Whoops, did I miss it? I think I missed it. Let's go back down. Dove Gray is also a favorite, by the way, and that's the number 84. Let's see, where did Thunder Gray go? Is it at the bottom here? I was thinking it was closer to the top. I guess I should have this memorized by now. Smoke Gray, Stone Gray, Slate Gray, Storm Gray, Studio Gray. Thunder Gray, number 27. That's actually my favorite. That's the one that you see in most of my videos. Any of those medium grays, honestly, are awesome. I don't want to get you guys so locked in. What I ultimately would encourage you to do is over time experiment with a couple different colors. Certainly, as you saw in my previous videos, if you take care of those those backgrounds properly, they'll last you quite a bit of time. But over time, go ahead and experiment with a few different colors. But those are the two that are kind of my favorites. Dove Gray on the lighter side, Thunder Gray on the darker side. Okay? All right. Adam Assard, happy about the psychology videos coming. Yep, they're coming, I promise, okay? Let's see. I know I had a bunch of questions back here. See, this is what I get for telling everybody to congratulate Andrew, because now all I can read is congratulations, Andrew. Okay, so let's see here. James Parrott. Oh, that's an answer to somebody else. Let's see. Amateur Media Group, have you tried out the tethering that came out with the GH5 2.0 firmware? I have not updated yet. I simply have not. Full disclosure, I've read all about the firmware upgrade. I fully intend to do it. I have not done it yet. I just haven't had the time. I've mentioned before that I've been dabbling a lot with shooting with the GH5 on kind of a professional level. And I won't lie to you, man. It's impressive. I am going to be doing a lot more tethering in the near future. A lot more tethering for a couple of reasons, which you'll learn about. So I definitely will try it out, but I have not had a chance to do that yet. So, Robin Houses, can you make a list of what a beginner like me would need to get started? Depends on what you want to shoot, Robin, but honestly, start with that. I'm not kidding. And then from there, it really depends on what kind of pictures that you want to take. But honestly, go easy with the starting. Start simple. Maybe do research into where you like to be 5 years from now, but start with a camera that's going to be easy enough for you to kind of get your head wrapped around. And then really what you want to do at first is work on the accessory pieces as you need them. So you could start with a lower priced camera body with a smaller feature set, but make sure you're buying good glass for it. Glass that is going to carry you through years in your career. And then over time, you'll upgrade. You'll upgrade the glass. You'll upgrade the camera. You'll add more glass. You're not going to wind up wasting money. Whatever you do, Robin, please do not become a geartographer. Don't do that. Be a photographer at every level, but don't be a geartographer, okay? So let's see here. Let me back up here. Tom Cooper, I quit defending my copyright when I realized it was just a pointless source of frustration. Yep, it is. And honestly, I'm not kidding, guys. The story I told you about having more than 40 issues that I've had to deal with over the years, I swear to you, God's honest truth there, okay? And every time I've had no problem just by being honest, sincere, and straight with people. It's not an issue. And it's because, ultimately, most people are not jerks. Most people are not looking to harm you or hurt you. And in every one of these cases, this was just people being lazy and stupid. So it was not an issue. Have there been situations where photographers have lost money and had to go to court and recuperate and all that kind of stuff? Yeah, but you got to be really honest with yourself. Are you producing work that has that value to it? And I'm sorry, but most of us, notice I said us, we're not. So, you kind of got to get over yourself and remember why you picked up the camera in the first place. That's really the key, okay? So let's see. Casper, have I ever experienced a copycat of your work? How did you feel? Did he or she rub it in your face? God, yeah, all the time. I mean, Casper, go check in on the Facebook group. There's people all the time trying to do beauty shots like I do. Some of them do it really, really good.
Really good. I could argue that Irene's copying me only because I'm older than her, but she's doing it a heck of a lot better than I do. So, yeah, guys, I mean, look, we all have those feelings of jealousy at some point. We all do. But always remember, jealousy is grounded in insecurities. Jealousy is your ego talking. Why do you pick up the camera in the first place? So, ultimately, it doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't matter. Now, Casper, in all fairness, full disclosure, the 20-year-old version of me would have probably had a slightly different response to that, okay? I mean, I will acknowledge that. So I have the luxury now, if you will, of, having grown up, experienced a lot of life. I don't want to say I'm necessarily more mature, but experienced a lot more life. So, I kind of realize that that's really what that comes down to. And it's not worth it. Nate, thank you so much for the super chat, man. I appreciate it. Okay. So let's see. Julie Moose, have to say it made sense. Julie, I'm glad. And that's all I can ask. Is it, I get people thinking, because believe me, as I learned today on social media, the people that are die-hard watermark people, they're not going to change because of anything I said tonight. But admittedly, I'm hoping to at least make them think and make them start looking to the future so that they start looking for methods to protect their work that are not going to really impede their progress as in terms of building a brand or building a business or any of the above. Okay. So, Michael, can you take on the topic about rear curtain off-camera flash at some point? I can. I have briefly, Michael. I do have a video about shutter drag. So if you go to the channel and search for shutter drag, you'll find out where I talk about it a little bit. I don't do a lot of it, but indeed, I have discussed it. So I can't say that there's going to be anything like really, really soon, but certainly it's definitely a possibility that I will just, that I will address that again in the future. Aaron Robbins, Art Wolf, Gavin Hoey, no watermarks. Yeah, again, guys, you're not going to find the successful photographers that, are using watermarks or not. And now, if we dig hard enough, are there one or two out there? I'm sure there are. I will bet you that those one or two are probably older, number one. But I assure you, they are in the extreme minority. Okay? So I'm not making this stuff up. All right? David Fox, you worried about my blood pressure? Nah, it's all good, David. In fact, I've had no caffeine this afternoon at all. So it's all purely natural. It's all good. Okay? Alonzo, what do you think about the 80-200 2.8 Minolta G? Alonzo, I won't lie to you. I didn't even know there was such a lens. In fact, since it says Minolta, I would have assumed it was a lens from 30 years ago. But I know that the Minolta brand's still kind of around and doing stuff. So I'm assuming this is a new lens that maybe works on Sony or maybe Micro Four Thirds. I don't know. Alonzo, I'm definitely not a geartographer. And I'm not saying it. Just actually, it's worth noting. When I refer to geartographers and zombie photographers, I want to be clear. Zombie photographers, I'm taking a poke at. I'm totally taking a poke at. I want to get their backs against the wall. Geartographers, techtographers, it's just a label so that we kind of understand where a person's priorities are. And I swear to you, I have no negative connotation about it. I am not a gear photographer. That's not why I take pictures. Do I sometimes find geartographers and techtographers frustrating? Well, of course, because I'm not one, okay? But it's easier just to kind of reference people's preferences and that because we have those categories, stereotypes, gang, they exist for a reason. I'm not using them to be mean. I'm using them simply so that we have a framework and a reference in the conversation. Okay. So, let's see. So Alonzo, I'm sorry. I know that answer wasn't really super helpful. I apologize. But I don't have a better answer for you there. So, Eduardo, your opinion is your opinion. You're right, man. It is. And I'll stick with it. So thank you for that. Okay. Joe's new term, dinotographer, the non-involving photographer. Quick. I got to run to Google and see if that's available. Hold on. No, I'm kidding. Okay. So, hey, if you guys are ever curious, there's nothing there now, but give me a couple weeks. It's happening. There are going to be websites all about geartographers and techtographers and zombie photographers. So, it's coming. Okay. So, Troy Hall, no, none of the masters do. Adams, Cartier-Bresson, Andy Leibovitz, those people, no, they don't have to. Their work speaks for itself, period. Logos on social media, no, same difference. It's by the way, I see you have a watermark here in your video. No, actually, I don't have a watermark here in my video. The watermark here in my video is a subscribe button. That's a YouTube feature. I didn't choose to watermark my video. There's no watermark on the video, okay? If you're referring to the TogChat logo, that's just so that when people watch this, they know it's TogChat. That's all, as opposed to one of my normal tutorials, okay? I use a very common format that's used by many YouTubers in that sense, but there's no watermarking here. So let's see. I know there were a couple good questions way back in the beginning here. So Troy Hall, somebody actually steals my image and I finally become a good photographer. You know what, Troy? That is the perfect attitude. It really is. So I love it. So, oh, that's interesting. Sven, in Norway, you have basically the same laws as soon as you created it. Good, good. That's good to know. And there is, gosh, I don't remember what it's called. There was a treaty, like an international treaty that was signed, that was actually part of what led up to the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, where most countries around the world agreed to this copyright terminology. So that's probably why, Sven, the laws there are very similar to the way they are here, because I'm confident that Norway is probably one of the countries that's involved in that treaty and that agreed to that. So that's where that came along. So Amateur Media Group, I would completely agree with your statement. It says here, watermarks just seem like they're mainly to show off to other photogs. They seem to be the only ones that notice or care. You are probably very, very accurate in that assessment. I would agree. So let's see. Is signing your work considered to be a watermark? That James Victor guy, who I don't know who he is, so no offense to him, but says artists sign the work. Yeah, that's great, but I'm sorry. I don't have any artists watching me here. That's not an insult. I'm not an artist. Get over it. Am I creative? Yes. Okay. Am I maybe a little artistic? Yes. Am I an artist? No. I'm a photographer. And there is a difference. I'm not putting my work in galleries. Okay. So my statement about there's no artists here, I'm not insulting you folks. I'm just saying, like, let's get real. Okay. Artists do sign their work. I discussed that in the middle of my chat, but we're not talking about artists here. So, all right. So let me, gosh, where's that question? There we go. And then I'll get back to the beginning. So Marcus, if you can, oh, it's a deep Marcus question. Okay. If you can get back in time and find young Joe when you were starting in photography, what advice will you give to him? Stay focused. Don't think that you can do everything, because you can't. And get your head out of your ass and don't be so cocky. Learn to appreciate the opportunities that you have. Those would probably be my 3 big pieces of advice that I would give to the 18 to 20-year-old version of me. I've told you guys before, I got married when I was 20 years old. I thought that I could do everything, you know, at the same time, and I sucked as a husband, and it impacted my photography. I didn't appreciate the gift that I had as a photographer because I just took it for granted. I didn't know any better as a kid, you know, and so I write that off to being a kid. I'm not proud of it, but yeah, that's part of the evolution. So those would be the things that I would definitely want to tell people. So let's see, G Bickerstaff. Let's see, I'm new to this chats. If you can't find the social media file, message me. What you can do, if you're on Patreon and you can't find that, just do a search in the search bar for social media, and when you're logged into my profile, and it'll take you right to the post. And then when you click on it, it's going to send out a Google notice to ask me to give you permission, or just message me directly with your Google email address. So JG, the old Joe is still cocky. Yeah, but a very different kind of cocky, Jay. I'll be honest with you. And you know, you may disagree. That's fine. I use cocky today, whereas in the past I was cocky. Hopefully that makes sense. And if it doesn't, you're entitled to your opinion. So let's see. Brent Drafts, the copyright changes started around 1977. You're right. It was in 1998 that they signed the DMCA. And it was predominantly movies and then the recording industry in the internet age that really kind of brought us to the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. So you're definitely absolutely correct about that. So let's see here. Sean Fine, it is that time of year for zombies. You're right. Oh, Manny is here too. Wow, we got them all tonight. How about that? So, and there's Doug Thompson fanboying out with the Sony guy. I should have known that that would be the case. There we go. Julie Moose, my only issue is that my son, who has a computer graphic degree, designed my watermark. So, Julie, here's the straight talk. If your son is working with that computer graphic degree, he already knows that design clients are a total pain in the ass. They change their mind all the time. Add to that, you're a woman. I'm going to get shot down for this. Add to that you're his mom. He will totally not be surprised that you stopped using the watermark. You could use that watermark as your logo, but just don't slap it all over your pictures. Okay? So let's see here. Manny, I never watermarked. That's good to hear, Manny. Thank you. Okay. So see, guys, if you don't believe me, I've got Manny and Irene here. Who else do you need to hear from? I don't think Jason will come and tell you. But come on, all right? Cut me a little slack here. So let's see. Paul Sutton, can you please do a video on the cheap Chinese LED lights? Maybe extend the series by one? Paul, here's the deal. Like, I've been very honest about this. If they send them to me, I'll do them. I don't make that kind of money that I can go out and just buy gear to do videos on. So if it's something that I have, obviously, you guys know I'll do videos on it. If somebody wants to send me something to try out, and by the way, just for the record, I don't get to keep all these things that come my way. Every now and then, some of these manufacturers are really nice and let me get to keep the stuff. Most of it goes back afterwards, okay? It's on loan. Like in a couple weeks, actually, I've been doing, I haven't talked about this yet, so you guys are the first to know. I've been playing around for a few weeks with some Lens Baby lenses. These things are kind of cool. And full disclosure, I was never a fan. I thought they were kind of gimmicky. So just by some chance, in fact, it was the folks at Hunts. They put me in touch with the folks at Lens Baby. And the folks at Lens Baby said, sure, we'll send you some. We can't give them to you, but we'll send you some to try out. So I've had them for a couple of weeks. I've been out playing around with them. I've done one shoot with a model with them, and it was actually a lot of fun. I've also been using them for some other just kind of random creative stuff. Actually having a blast with them. And interestingly enough, I went into it kind of thinking, well, these are kind of very gimmicky. We'll see what we can do. Maybe they've advanced from the early days. Because I played with a Lens Baby way back when they first came out. And what I found is that they've advanced a lot, and the amount of control they give you. In fact, if I had one complaint about the Lens Baby lenses, is they almost give you too many options. Like literally, they almost give you too many options. So there's a learning curve to kind of finesse them, but I don't get to keep those. The folks, they were kind enough to lend me demos that I can play with and I get to use. I'm going to do the videos about them because I want to talk about them. It's stuff that I think it's actually worth people, if not going out and buying, at least really, really understanding what the options are and what things you might want to be looking at down the road. So if somebody wants to send me the cheap LED lights from China, I'm certainly open to trying them, but I'm not going to lie to you. Us YouTubers, we don't make that kind of money that we can just go buy this stuff. Yeah, when you're talking the channels that have been around for 10 years and they've got 1 million or 1.5 million subscribers, they're making enough money also that they can afford to go out and, buy equipment and sell it used, which I know a lot of the big channels do. I don't see myself ever doing that. I've had a lot of fun doing some of these gear lighting tutorials, but ultimately my focus will always be on the how and the why. That's where I intend to, to go with this. So, I don't want to say no, Paul, but it's going to require somebody to send me the lights. Okay. Let's see here. Anand, have you mentioned how you hate Irene? Oh, Irene's heard me say I hate Irene just a little bit. She's so damn talented. I can't stand it. I hate Manny a little bit too. I mean, I'm not going to let him off the hook. The guy's only been shooting for 4 or 5 years. I mean, plus he's got an absolutely incredible model that he gets to work with every time. Not that, my models are mincemeat, but hey, come on. So, yeah, am I jealous of that? Damn straight I am. I'm not going to lie about that. So what else do we got here? April, you've been waiting to hear what I thought about the Lens Babies. Yeah, I'm obviously video coming. It'll probably be in about 2 weeks. They're a lot of fun. So there you go. Irene's got one. Yeah, the tilt shift. Yeah. So seriously, I've had much more fun with them than I anticipated, and I have found more reasons that I could actually use them on an ongoing basis in my work. So yeah, they are very, very pleasantly surprised. I'm not getting paid to say that. I don't get to keep them. I just got to touch them and use them. but they're really pretty cool. So let's see. EW images, how to control flash in an umbrella in a small room. Tried zooming the flash, but too much spill on the background. EW images, the easiest answer, since you just have an umbrella, and that's okay, by the way. I don't mean it to say, oh, you just have an umbrella, you poor thing, you have no gear. No. The easiest answer is go watch my video about the inverse square law. And then watch my video about how I turned a shoot-through umbrella into a beauty dish. Because there was a situation where I was able to get crisp beauty dish type shadows with a shoot-through umbrella. And it's all about understanding the inverse square law and how to use the inverse square law. So, and by the way, you don't have to know the math and all that crap. It's just simply about understanding how the inverse square law works. So that would be my recommendation, EW, is go and look at it. The other thing, I believe, EW, you are a member of my Facebook group. If you're not, why the heck not? But what I would encourage you to do is in the Facebook group, if you can give me an example of something that you've done where you're having a problem, and here's the catch, but also with the behind the scenes shot. So maybe if it's like, if you're working in your house and you're having that problem, set up a shot, even if it's with a mannequin, but do a behind the scenes shot so that I can see your setup, and we can definitely help you problem solve that way. But with kind of the generic statement like that, it's a little tough to be able to really give you the answer. But I will tell you, one of the easiest ways to control spill in a tight space is simply by understanding the inverse square law. Sure, if you have the money, you can use softboxes and grids and honeycombs and all that kind of stuff. You can even use flags, which are very cheap. You can go to a dollar store, just get that foam core. Oh, by the way, we need a moment of silence. I just remembered this. I can no longer use the phrase Walmart reflector. I'm really bummed about that. No, I didn't get in trouble from Walmart. I don't think Walmart knows or cares. I found out over the last couple of weeks that at least in store, Walmart no longer sells the Walmart reflector, which sucks because now it means it's got to be a dollar store reflector. Okay. And the problem with the ones at the dollar store, they're white and they work, but I absolutely do love the finish on the Walmart ones. The Walmart ones are made by Elmer's, the glue people, you know, Elmer's glue from grade school, right? And they're a little bit shinier, which means they're also a little bit more reflective. So, yeah, no more Walmart reflectors. So I guess I will have to start calling them dollar store reflectors, okay? Adamus Art, what is that thing that you showed in one of your videos where you can mount a speed light on a ground or hang it on the wall? I can't remember which video it was in. Mount a speed light on the ground or hang it on a wall. I think you might have been talking about the Manfrotto boom arm, Adamos, and that would be the story about the DIY home studio that I did. So, or the video, sorry. So check out the video on the DIY home studio. And I think that you will find that's the answer where you're going to see what you're looking for there. Irene, I have heard about that lens. Now that you're talking about it, doggone it, I'm going to have to look more because I'll be honest with you. I've just seen a few, photos and captions go by. But I have not really dug that deep into them. So, April, did I get to use the Velvet? I did not get to use the Velvet. I got to use the Composer Pro. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I do have the Velvet. Excuse me. That's the one that just came. I have not played with that one yet. That's the third one they sent me. So that one's going to get shot this week. I got to use the Composer Pro and the Twist 60. Those are the ones that I've already shot with. The Velvet is here. And it's recommended. Oh, yep, April, baby plates. You're right. So Adamus Art. If that's what you're talking about, there's a video about baby plates. April, good call. I think you nailed that one. Okay. Steve, yes, you can get foam core in a lot of different places. You just can't get the $1.88 version at Walmart anymore. So kind of ruins my whole, name thing. So yeah, I think you guys understood Adamus better than I did. It's the baby pins probably. So I love all the people that are coming in late and swearing, I don't watermark. Honest, I don't do it. I really don't do it. Thank you, gang. I appreciate it. Okay. So, Edward, what do you recommend when using mannequins? Well, first of all, give them a sexy name. I was told that very, very early on in this YouTube process because people were really upset with me that I did not have a name. Hence, my mannequin is named Lola. Do I recommend full-length mannequins or just heads? It depends on what kind of photography you do, Edward. For me, I bought the mannequin for teaching purposes. So I wanted a full-length one so that I could light the full body. But as you notice in my videos, I generally just use it from the waist up because it does come apart. I will tell you that I think one of the most important things about purchasing your mannequin is making sure that you get one that's got some shape and depth to the face. Some mannequins are like almost these smooth faces where the face is basically painted on. That's not going to really help you a lot if you're really trying to fine tune your lighting. And one of the other things too that I will remind you guys, mannequins are great. I highly recommend it because you can get them for under $100 now, like fully articulated, well, not fully articulated, but partly articulated mannequins that are like 5 feet 8 inches tall. Great to work with. But also a while back, I talked to you guys, a couple of TogChats about Set Alight 3D. Let me see if I can find the link for here really quick. If not, I know I can count on Troy because Troy's here. Troy, could you grab me the link for Elixir software and post it into the chat window for me? And I'll make sure you guys get it. But that Satellite 3D software is awesome for like practicing and planning because it's amazingly accurate. When you set a light, you set the watt seconds or the power of your light, and then from that point on, it works accurately as you adjust exposures and move the light, etc. So that's another way. But for mannequins, it really depends on what you want to shoot. If you just need headshots, you could just use a bust. If you are shooting full-length stuff, then I would encourage you to get a full-length one. So. Gary Miller, I'm trying and struggling making little educational videos in my garage. Info on LPG regulators, how to use them, etc. All shot on a worktop. That's kind of a whole nother topic, Gary. I will tell you this, there's a lot of videos that are cropping up on YouTube that are basically how to do YouTube videos, and some of them are how to do product videos, etc. I really had no intentions of delving into that area, but I have had a bunch of people ask very nicely of late, would I at least kind of share what gear and what stuff I use to do both these TogChats that you see and then also my regular videos. So the answer is yes, I will. It's not going to happen in the next couple of weeks, but yeah, potentially after the PDN show in New York, Photo Plus, I will, see if I can get around to that for you guys. Okay. Irene, do I still shoot film? I recently got into, I'm totally obsessed. Well, I don't. I joke all the time, Irene, that film is a 4-letter word and I avoid 4-letter words. For me, I just don't have the patience at this point. I mean, it's really what it comes down to. I count my blessings on a daily basis that I learned with film. And I count my blessings that I had 2 key mentors when it came to my darkroom work and my film shooting that were incredible. In fact, one had been an intern with Ansel Adams. So I got my butt kicked around the darkroom a lot when I was a teenager. So I am blessed for having had that experience. But at this point, I have no desire to go back to it. For your work, Irene, and for the style of work that you do, I would suggest and think that film would open up an incredible amount of possibilities for you. I don't see you as a person that's going to go down a path of doing like ridiculous amounts of post-production and compositing. I think film, especially since you do have kind of such a stylistic feel to the way you approach your shots and your lighting, your natural lighting, I think that you will love film. Absolutely. So I will look forward to seeing more of your film work. So let's see here. Alejandro, love your tutorials and subs in Spanish. In fact, I'm behind on this the Spanish subtitles right now, Alejandro, but I'm catching up. I intend to keep doing them. Thank you. I'm glad that it does help out. So Gary Milor, have you made a video on how to make a little presentation of a product, how to in a garage? If not, I have not yet. But it's possible it could come down the road. I mean, given that I'm primarily a people photographer, that's probably going to be, for the most part, my focus for quite some time. I'm sure eventually I might get tired of that and, kind of expand into other things. But yeah, we'll get there. So let's see here. What else did I miss? Walmart does have the Ucreate premium white poster board. Yeah, the problem with that, Troy, it's poster board, which means it's like really flimsy. It's not to say you couldn't work with it. I really love the foam core. So, that's kind of the challenge there. So, the infamous boot. What light strobes can freeze motion that cost cheaper than DigiBees 400 or Alien B 400? So you want a really good strobe and you don't want to pay for it. Is that pretty much it? So understand that a strobe is a strobe is a strobe in terms of the fact that it'll stop motion. So like you could go out and buy like potentially like a $60 or $70 Yangwuno speed light, and it's going to stop action. So your question there, infamous boot, is a little bit like wide open. Okay. So can't really help you with that. Let's see. I saw a question up here a little bit earlier. Thoughts on the Rotolite Neos? They're round. That's my thought. I don't like them. I'm not a big fan of LED lights that have forward-facing light sources. I kind of hinted at that in my last LED video. I think that they are overpriced for what they do. The Neo 2, the new one with the flash and the high-speed sync. Come on, gang, it's pure gimmick. Please don't be dumb enough to think that it's revolutionary. Let me tell you what Rotolite did really, really, really well. And this is not a slam on Rotolite. I have mad respect because they did something that's brilliant. They got out in front. They knew, number one, that since they've got Jason, they could get the attention of all the Sony fanboys really quick. And the Sony fanboys, and I'm not saying that to be a jerk to Sony fanboys, okay? But hey, Sony people have a lot to be proud of, so they should be fanboys. Cool, right? But here's the thing. They were smart enough to realize, their marketing people, that they got out with Jason in front of it. They could get the attention of all the Sony fanboys, because the one thing that the Sony fanboys have proven, just like the Apple fanboys, they will spend money on Sony gear, period. Okay? And they'll spend a lot of money on Sony gear. So by talking about this high-speed sync and having a flash built with LED and all that stuff, that's great. But is it ready for prime time? No. First of all, it's small. And I love the fact they have a softbox for it. That softbox doesn't do squat, gang. It simply doesn't do squat. Okay? So, it's just not ready for prime time. It's a gimmick. And they're a little too big to be putting them on camera. So you're always going to use them off camera, which means you're going to use them at a distance from your subject, which means they're small point light sources. So, yeah, not a fan. Not for the money. I would take the Edgelit Pros from Savage. I would take even the Specular lights, which are small, but you can gang them together. I would take those for the money over Rotolite stuff any day. I give Rotolite a ton of credit. James Brown, thank you, man, so much for the super chat. I greatly appreciate it. I give Rotolite a ton of credit for being smart enough to know that it's coming. And it is coming, gang. It's absolutely coming. Getting out in front of it. Being first to market. They're paying attention to the Sony model, which is very wise. Okay, understand that first to market has a lot of value in any business. Go back and look at Amazon, and then look at what happened to Borders and Barnes and Nobles. Okay, Sony was first to market with the mirrorless stuff. They weren't the first to have a mirrorless camera, but they were the first to come up with a professional grade system and really build buzz around it and make sure that it was a quality product. Okay, so there is a lot of value to that, because at this point, both Canon and Nikon will be playing catch up for a very, very long time. And let's face it, gang, if you've been reading the buzz the last week or so for you Nikon users, it's not looking good, man. It's just not looking good. A lot of the buzz about what Nikon is doing is not really going to be a altogether product. I want desperately to be wrong. But it's going to be a new lens system with a new lens mount. You're going to have to purchase a really, really expensive adapter to use your existing Nikon lenses. If that happens, I'll be looking at Sony. Absolutely. Or for that matter, I might be looking at my Panasonics. I'm not going to lie to you, which I know that makes a lot of you laugh. But you think I'm kidding. I'm quite serious. But if that happens, then I will have to really start, kind of reconsidering. So, James Brown, your question didn't come up with super chat. What is your favorite type of lighting for glamour photography? Rembrandt, high key? Oh, God. James Brown, I swear to God to you, I promise you, with the exception of when I'm making videos, I have never had the thought of Rembrandt or high key lighting go through my head in a photo studio in the last 20 some years. I just don't. I never use Rembrandt. Well, I shouldn't say never. I use Rembrandt lighting sometimes in my videos just to show depth and drama and that kind of stuff. But if you look at my work, I don't do that kind of stuff. So my favorite kind of lighting, I would refer to it as commercial. Alonzo, it is not sad. Mirrorless is the future. And that's a damn good thing, man. Really, really good thing. It's just sad the Canon and Nikon aren't there yet. So anyway, James, you know, I am a commercial shooter, so my lighting tends to have a commercial look to it. It tends to be broad, soft light, evenly lit, clean, crisp. Those are the words that I would use to describe it. But I don't subscribe to lighting diagrams, and especially not the old school lighting styles of Rembrandt and that kind of stuff. I don't want somebody to look at my picture and identify the style of lighting that's in it. That's really not my goal, so I don't do that, okay? Amateur Media Group, you picked up a little Nissan flash for the GH5. I think it was about $250. Works off camera. It's pretty decent. I think, though, if I was about to buy a studio light, well, you guys know I love, you know, Pulse Buff. I've used them for years. I love the Digibys. Those Digibys, man, they rock. I'm sorry, but I will say it again. I said it before. The Digibee, the most underrated studio strobe on the market today. Period. Hands down. I will take anybody to the mat on that statement. Done. Okay? If you want gimmicks, go buy Godox. They're great with gimmicks. Okay? Godox could be wonderful if they get rid of half the damn gimmicks and just put out like a super good flash. Okay? Instead, they got a bunch of crap that people don't need and they'll spend extra money for, which is smart marketing on their part. But nah, you can't beat the Digibees, hands down. So let's see. Healing 365. Should I get the Sony RX10 Mark IV for weddings? Man, I have no idea about that camera. So I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, it seems like most of the people that show up in my TogChat would say, go get a Sony A9 for weddings. So there you go. Because apparently they think that that's going to make them a better wedding photographer. So let's see here. Let's see. Gary Miller, I would... I can't answer that question. Gary, you got to understand, like, that's one of those questions, and seriously, not trying to be mean, but just to educate a little bit, you can't ask a question like that, okay? Currently using LEDs, not really doing it for you. What would you recommend? Well, Gary, what are you taking pictures of? How big's the space? How do you tend to set your lights? Do you need modifiers? Do you use modifiers? Do you want to use modifiers? I mean, how can I answer a question about what would I recommend instead of LEDs? In case you noticed, I'm in the middle of doing a lighting series about LED lights, and I love LED lights. I think they're freaking awesome. I think I said that already tonight. So, like, I'm sorry that it's not really doing it for you. You could go to constant lights that are like halogen or that, or maybe hang in for part 4 of my LED series this week, and you'll see a light that's a whole lot more powerful than the others that I've been using, but I'm not done the series yet. But you got to give some context, gang. And Gary, seriously, like, I just want to help you not find yourself go off in a bad direction because of advice that somebody gives you, okay? That is a geartographer question. Your question is focused completely on the gear, and it's not focused on what you're doing. So if you want help, tell us what you're doing, give us the parameters, and then I can help you solve the problem. But all you did was throw a challenge at me, and it's a challenge I'm not going to accept because the advice I give you is high likelihood it's going to be completely wrong, okay? So give me a little more information, and I'll definitely try and help you out. So Troy Hall, thank you so much, man, for the super chat. I appreciate it. So where are we at? Ooh, I'm late, as usual. 2 more questions. Here we go. So let's see. Francisco, physics are against Canon, Nikon, and DSLR to mirrorless transition. Flange distance is crucial. Yeah, I mean, hands down, that's the issue. The bigger issue, according to what I've been seeing, Francisco, is that the reason why they're going to go with these big adapters has to do with getting the autofocus to work, and that's the challenge. So the infamous boot, how are the Digibees on freezing motion? They're as good as you are, man. Like, seriously? What do you mean, how good is it on freezing motion? Come on, go to the... Is my name Ken Wheeler? Am I the angry photographer that knows every stat about every lens and every gadget ever made? No. Go to the Pulse Buff website, look up the Digibee, look up the specs, find out what the flash duration is. That's how good it is at stopping motion. I mean, you do understand, when you're using a strobe, flash duration determines whether or not it's going to stop the motion, period. And the better question becomes in, what kind of motion are we talking about? Are we talking about the motion of somebody laughing? Or are we talking about the motion of a motorcycle driving down the street or a hammer breaking a light bulb? So come on, guys. You got to, don't be so lazy, please. All right. Ezekiel, is there ever a time where you would choose a softbox that is reflecting from the back, indirect, versus a softbox that has like a Bowen's mount in the back? Doesn't matter. A softbox is a softbox is a softbox. If you like the light that comes out the front and you use it properly, you're going to be great. If you don't use it properly, it's going to suck. What you have to understand is that when we're talking about a softbox, let's assume you're using a rectangular one, right? So it's a rectangular opening. So shooting straight through with a baffle, preferably, the inner baffle, or shooting to the back and then reflecting through, the only impact that has is the intensity of the light. And that is impacted by how intense is the light that you put in the softbox. But none of that changes the light that comes out the front, because the light's still going to come out of the same dimensions. And according to the inverse square law, it will still spread at the same ratio, regardless of whether the light's pointing forward or backwards. So don't get too hung up on that, like at all. Certainly, there's a good argument that says if you've got a silver line softbox and you are able to point a strobe directly into the back. Sven, thank you so much, man, for the super chat. I appreciate it. Looks like I'm having pizza for dinner. So if you aim that strobe back into that silver, then there's a good chance that that might increase your light output slightly. But you would honestly, you'd have to test that. But in terms of the actual, what does the light look like coming out? It's not going to make any difference whether you're aiming it to the back or aiming it to the front. It's still coming out of the same size opening, okay? And that's, I've talked a lot about before about how, and again, this is not a diss to the equipment manufacturers, because I do sometimes diss equipment manufacturers. But, these companies have to stay in business. So part of the way they stay in business is they have to keep coming up with new and cool looking gear that works different or is interesting and that kind of stuff, all right? If they don't do that, then once people have their gear, why buy more gear, right? So, a softbox is a softbox is a softbox for the most part, okay? So, let's see. Harsh, going from APS-C to full frame is good when it comes to portrait and even I'm assuming you mean event photography, assuming that the lighting is good enough at every event. Yeah, once again, Harsh, I got to be honest with you. Stop saying stuff like that to people. That's your opinion, and I can show you tons and tons and tons of high quality images shot with APS-C cameras at events and for portraits. Ever since I bought the Nikon D500, which I told you guys I bought to be able to do comparison images, I've been shooting, and every one of my shoots I pick out that D500 and I do some shots with it. For everything that I'm doing, and I'm talking, I could go ahead and make prints up to like 16 by 24, 16 by 20, and even 20 by 24. I'm not losing any quality over the full frame because I'm working in a studio. So you can't make a generic statement like that. You just can't, okay? It's going to be different for every photographer and different needs. If you're going to go just by the bench tests and the actual gear facts, well then hell yes, bigger's always better. Done. Simple. Anand, thank you so much, man. Okay? So yeah, but please, gang, let's be good educators and be helpful. Don't just spit stuff out that you heard in a YouTube video somewhere. Always, anytime you give somebody advice, you've got to try and understand what's the context. How are they going to use that advice? Not how would you do it, how are they going to do it? That's the key, okay? So let's see, Paul, the problem with the reflective softbox is you can't lean it like a Bowen's mount style. Yeah, I mean, if that's your need. But once again, Paul, same thing. Not everybody needs to lean one, okay? So for you, it's a problem, but that's not going to be the case for everyone. So let's see here. Where are we at here? I wonder why Canon and Nikon don't make mirrorless camera style. Yeah, well, so I see Francisco talked a little bit more about that, Al, and it's true. It has to do with the way the current lenses mount and how close they mount to the film, or the sensor plane now compared to where they would wind up being in the future. It also has to do with the electronics and how the autofocus works on the current lenses. There's actually a whole multitude of things. If you, what's the website? NikonRumors.com. There's just one example that I can give you. They recently published a couple articles with some really good diagrams kind of breaking down what some of the obstacles are that Nikon's facing in terms of being able to put existing lenses on new mirrorless camera bodies. And it makes complete sense. I mean, I'm not a hardcore guy. I certainly, if Ken Wheeler talked about it, I would believe him because Ken knows his stuff. Okay. I'm not that hardcore. I'm not an engineer by any way, shape, or form. So, but I do know, yes, they've got a big obstacle ahead of them, and that's part of why it's all taking so long. So I, like a lot of other Nikon photographers and a lot of Canon photographers, and fingers crossed, hoping they get it right. I don't want to switch to Sony. I don't trust Sony. Sony has a history that indicates Sony will let their photographers down. I sincerely hope I am wrong. I want to be wrong. But I've stuck with Nikon for all these years and will continue to stick with Nikon until they make it so that I can't. That being said, I want to go to mirrorless cameras. I want to use an EVF, an electronic viewfinder. So I will give Nikon the opportunity to show me in their first pro mirrorless camera that they're headed in the right direction. If it is going to be a situation where I am not going to, be able to continue to do what I do the way I like to do it, and without having to spend tons and tons and tons of money, at that point, I will probably go ahead and switch. So the Norwegian Nerd. God, I love that handle. That's awesome. Am I allowed to ask questions even though I haven't donated? Hell yes. In fact, okay, last question, gang. So I was going to sign off, but how can I not answer a question for the Norwegian Nerd? So here's the question. I have a Canon 80D, and I'm going to take pictures of indoor skateboarding competition. Lens recommendations. It's bad lighting in there. Gas lamps. Okay, so first of all, don't stress the gas lamps thing because, number one, you can balance the white balance of your camera to mention or to match the gas lighting. As far as the lens goes, that really depends on how close you're going to be able to get to your subjects. So I think some of my personal favorite images of skateboarding and that kind of stuff have actually been done with wide-angle lenses really up close. There's a good possibility you're not going to be able to do that if it's a competition, and you may have to shoot with a telephoto lens. So unfortunately, Norwegian Nerd, the answer really comes down to what the layout is going to be like at this competition, how close you are able to get. With regards to the lighting, especially if you're any kind of a distance, don't try and add to the light. Work with the natural light. Increase your ISO. Color balance properly. Learn how to do that. You can do all of those things with a Canon 80D. It's a nice little camera, okay? When it comes to style, I'd prefer to shoot close with a wide angle. But once again, if you can't do that, you need to go with a telephoto lens, okay? So, Tom Cooper, you ready? Tom Cooper says, some night I'm going to count all the times you say that being said. Oh, I thought you were going to say something about all the times I said good night. All right. So, Tom, just for you. That being said, gang, it's time for me to sign off. So once again, seriously, I appreciate all you guys for being here. Remember, if you're interested in the Savage LED ProLit, or the Savage, Edge-lit LED lights, 15% discount from Hutt's Photo and Video. You guys should check them out anyway. Lots of great educational stuff on their website also. New video coming out this week about 4 Smith Victor LED lights, and these are 4 very different ones. One is a ring light, and I'm going to prove to you that ring lights are not just for cool circle catch lights and YouTube videos, and also 3 Savage LED lights that actually look and work, not Savage, Smith Victor, I apologize, Smith Victor lights. 3 Smith Victor lights that look and work like studio strobes. They have Bowens mounts, so you can put soft boxes on them, which I'll be doing the whole bit. So that'll be coming out this week. I also have a video that's going to come out some point this week. That's kind of a fun little video. You guys noticed I got new glasses recently, so that meant I had to shoot a new self-portrait. I hate shooting self-portraits. But since I give all of you guys so much grief, especially in my Facebook group, about shooting self-portraits, I figured it would only be fair. I recorded the whole process. I'm going to break it down for you and show you what my process was to shooting my self-portrait. So gang, listen, have an awesome week. Please, 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 please. Well, please stop watermarking. But in addition to that, do me all a favor, gang. And I think Irene and Manny, they'll go along with this. Don't spend more time on YouTube, because believe me, we love when you watch our videos and we appreciate it. I don't mean to speak for them, but I'm sure that they would agree. But don't spend more time on YouTube watching videos or more time on Facebook commenting, posting. than you do actually taking pictures. So at least for me, if you've got to choose between watching a video and shooting, please, gang, remember these words.
Thanks for watching another live episode of TogChat. Now go pick up that camera and shoot something, because your best shot, it's your next shot. So keep learning, keep thinking, and keep shooting. Adios.